So, Unschooling School is really a movement, a gathering place online, a set of resources, and a community hub to help put the power back where it belongs, and that's in the hands of learners and their families. And to say, okay, we have the public education system, it's full of resources and materials and caring teachers. Why don't we use it so that it benefits kids? Why don't we use it in the service of kids? And what this is about is kind of creating that idea in people's minds and having them say, yeah, why don't we do that? Because we don't like a lot of what's going on right now. So let's say, sorry, we're in charge and we are going to insist that the public resources be used for the good of children.
And I think that that's, remarkable because most people just look at the institution of school and feel somewhat distanced from it. It seems like the institution has done a good job of telling parents that they do not have the know how or the capacity to educate their kids. So they kind of trustingly just hand them over to this institution. And you're trying to wake people up to a different understanding.
Absolutely. And not only do we hand them over, we tend to think, oh, teacher said this, I must do it. Oh, the system thinks this, we have to do this. Oh, if you don't get a high school diploma, your life is ruined. Like these are dire things that we've somehow mostly bought and swallowed. And most of them, we say it on the website, it's nonsense. There's a lot of what we have believed that is just nonsense.
So, what do you think is the some of the strongest beliefs that are just keeping the system frozen in place? Frozen in a way that really doesn't serve children.
Mm. Well, I mean, all of the structures are self-reinforcing. So all of the, and a fair bit of them are exactly the same things that dominating cultures have used to colonize different places. So you take children away from their family first of all. You divide them by age groups, so they can't really learn from each other because they're only with 7-year-olds. You provide information that says there's a right answer and a wrong answer, so you're not allowed to be yourself and think differently. You have to just follow the rote progress. That we should all do the same things at the same times, and that there is a set of knowledge that if you have it, you will succeed in life. And none of that is true.
No, none of that is true. In fact, it seems like by forcing kids just to sit still and process information, they slowly lose they don't lose it, but they lose the connection to their imagination and their creativity and their problem solving. Um, so, yeah, that is interesting when you start looking at schooling as a process of kind of colonizing individuals, colonizing the mind. And
Hmm.
and we're just kind of complicit if we keep sending our kids to that system.
Well, and the problem is that not everybody can unschool. Not everybody can homeschool. Not everybody can find a really cool alternative like Sudbury Valley or an Agile Learning Center and send their kids there because there's an economic factor and also a double single parent factor. So we were going to in the long journey of things I've tried to get the education system to change, including here in Canada, having meetings with multiple ministers of education, multiple directors of education. At one point I had a handshake from a minister of education from a province in Canada saying, we'll have a contract in place, we will work with you to change the system. That was 14 years ago. I've tried everything else. We've run projects on First Nations reserves with First Nations communities for 10 years, showing that alternative methods do work. But the problem with that kind of work is that most the situation in most reserves is not healthy. It's not a good situation. So you can't just create this little island of academics that works in a sea of a community that is full of dysfunction. So and the part of the reason for doing that was to say, look, there's been a lot of damage done here, and we all need to work together to create solutions for that. And while I still believe that is true, I think that we have to change the education system writ large in order to solve some of the larger problems that we've got in the world today. and both in Canada and the U.S. and in Australia and New Zealand, the situation with Indigenous people is a big issue, and it behooves all of us to focus on. But maybe we need to get kids educated in a different way, in a way that hasn't killed their creativity and ingenuity, so that they can figure this out. Because we're doing a pretty bad job of it as the adults, as the adults in the room. We have not solved this at all.
Right, exactly. And I don't think that most people connect the dots between the problems that we see in the world and society with the way that people have been, I don't even want to say educated, not educated, but schooled.
Hmm.
And they think, oh, well, more school, better,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So the I love all the alternatives that have sprouted out. But when I tell people that Sudbury Valley School has been around for 50 years with phenomenal results and spawned probably 400 to 500 other kinds of similar schools around the world, and yet most people don't know about it. So how, I mean, us in our bubble, in the bubble that you and I are in, we know all about this, and we have so many friends that know about this. But then you talk to just somebody randomly, and they have no idea. They've never heard the term self-directed education or unschooling. And so if we don't somehow really seriously move the needle in public education, I think it's hundreds of years before we have enough independent schools to actually make a big change.
I agree because I co founded a Sudbury school in 2004 and we ran it for several years, but could not get it to a point of financial sustainability
Hmm.
because there really is this monopoly of the public school system. It's compulsory, right? It's
Yeah.
required by law, which a lot of people think, oh, they have freedom. Well, you will get in a lot of trouble if you don't educate your kids in a legal manner. So tell us more about the unschooling school movement because as you said, you're not trying to start another private school or learning center. You're really trying to fundamentally change the system and empower communities to change the system. So how does that all work?
Well, you're right. Empowering is the correct word, because what we're trying to say to kids and to parents is this is your system. You pay for it, you attend it. So get educated in terms of what does this all mean, and you could spend several days on the unschoolingschool.com website and learn all about unschooling and self-directed learning and how the brain really works and find the research and all that. So that's really the first step. We want people to understand what's out there and understand that there is an option that is not only viable but much better. And so once they understand that, then what we're saying with Unschooling School is fill out the paperwork to become a free learner. And a free learner is somebody who's decided to take responsibility for their own education within the education system. So we have quite a large section under the free learner tab. Including, we've developed something called the Free Learner IEP, Individual Education Plan. So we are, in a sense, co-opting some of the terminology that's commonly used in schools, so that educators will understand it. Oh, they've got an IEP. Yeah, I guess we have to. I guess we have to listen to that. Um, but this is an IEP that is determined not by some outside expert, but by the child themselves with the support of their parents. And it says, here are the things that I'm going to participate in school. So, for example, I love science class and I love music, but I have no interest in English literature, and I don't like the way gym class is, so I'm not going to attend those classes. And instead, when the class is doing something I'm not interested in, I will go to the library and read up on science material, or I will stay in the art room and continue with my art project. And the IEP also has a pretty large section, a free learner IEP, for responsibility. So we say on the website, with great freedom comes great responsibility. And if you are going to take responsibility for your education, then that means that you also need to be responsible for yourself in the context of the school community. And just because you don't have to do the math lesson doesn't mean you can pester the living daylights out of the kid beside you who is doing the math lesson. So